My brother dared me at Christmas. I dare you to disappear for a few days and you'll see nobody will miss you. So I answered, fine, I accept your challenge. And then I vanished. What they didn't expect was that the family account funds would vanish right along with me. My name is Sam. And for as long as I've been alive, it has felt like I've been living in the silhouette of somebody else. Have you ever sat at a table surrounded by people who swear they love you, and still felt like the room would run exactly the same if you weren't there? If you're listening to this, tell me where you are and what time your clock reads. Cedar Ridge is beautiful in winter, at least from the kind of distance where you can't smell the cracks. Frost dusts the rooftops, salt scrapes the pavement. Neighbors wave to each other with smiles that look practiced. I learned to return those smiles on command. Debit affection. Credit obedience. That was our family's accounting system long before I knew what a spreadsheet was. Melissa sprayed hairspray into the air until the house smelled like a dressing room backstage. She liked my collar stiff and my posture perfect. Jason believed silence was virtue. If I stayed quiet, I was automatically good. Dylan had no such expectations placed on him. Noise was his throne. He blew out birthday candles while I put dishes in the sink. He made wishes while I made sure the knife didn't scratch the expensive china. It became ordinary, and that was the most dangerous part. Every holiday I calculated things no one ever asked me to compute. How many favors equals one genuine thank you? How many first-place awards equals one spontaneous hug? One kept waiting for some conversion rate I hadn't discovered yet. Debit, straight A's and extra shifts. Credit, a stiff pat on the shoulder that felt like a pre-recorded message. I told myself love is patient, but I confused patient with eternal waiting. When Melissa said, "We should have a family account," it sounded almost normal. Emergencies happen, life surprises you. Fair enough. She smiled the way someone smiles when they've made a smart financial decision. And my junior accountant brain saluted enthusiastically. Open the account, set up deposits, automate, maintain peace. I told the bank manager it was for all four of us. I already knew most of the money would come from me. I just hoped numbers would someday translate into warmth. Sometimes we bargain with God and call it being grown up. The hallway always smelled like burnt toast and nail polish remover. Jason worked himself raw and came home repeating, "We gave you a roof." That's something. And yes, it is something. But a roof is not love. Try convincing a starving heart that shelter is a meal. Dylan had a tripod before he had ambition. He practiced confidence in the reflection of the blank TV. He practiced shout-outs to a subscriber base that didn't exist yet. He called me sis only when he needed the camera to see family wholesomeness. The rest of the time, he announced my full name like he was filing a complaint. He had charisma like a wildfire, warm from a distance, dangerous up close. I worked, deposited, sacrificed, and told myself it was fine. Rent short? I covered it. Groceries light? I filled the cart, pretending not to. Noticed the $18 face serum slipping onto the conveyor. The family account swelled when I said no to. New boots for myself. It drained when Dylan said he needed a ring light to take the channel to the next level. Debit boundaries. Ignored. Credit. Superficial peace at church. Dinners. People called us a strong family. We looked synchronized because I learned the choreography. Smile. When Melissa brags about Dylan's internship, even though he quit in 2 weeks. Laugh when Jason tells everyone I was born with a calculator in my hand. Nod when relatives say, "She's so dependable," while staring right past me to Dylan. I clapped on cue. I kept tempo. I was the drum, important enough to keep everyone on beat, yet invisible. I remember the venue contract. A renovated brewery with exposed brick and string lights. A place designed to make people appear richer and happier than reality. The invoice was $9,000. I didn't flinch. I told myself Christmas needed to feel like a ceasefire. Like maybe if I built the perfect holiday, I'd finally be allowed into the family instead of floating around it. Debit, savings. Credit. Desperate hope. On the drive home, my breath fogged the air, the sky pale like a bruise fading. I whispered, "This is the last big spend. After this, everything will shift. After this, Melissa will touch my face and mean it. Jason will look at me and actually see me. Dylan will thank me without turning it into a show. I'm excellent at predictions. I'm awful at miracles." Back home, Dylan was live streaming a test. Camera propped on cookbooks, ring light bright. I reached for the grocery list and he grabbed my wrist midstream so the camera could see us. "Look at us. Family goals," he said. Then he released me like I was a prop he was done using. Credit. None. The lights we hung outside hummed softly like a gentle lie. I filed the receipt in a folder labeled holiday, because I wanted that word to feel tender. Then I transferred the $9,000 into the family account, a number that could have been a down payment on a life somewhere else. The oven ticked. A train moaned across the river. I wanted to believe it sounded like a beginning. Debit. $9,000 for warmth. Credit. A promise no one else agreed to. That's when the first thread of doubt slid into the ledger and didn't erase. Christmas party exploded with laughter. Dylan held a microphone, drunk and full of swagger. And then came the dare. "I dare you to disappear for a few days. Violet, you'll see. Nobody will even notice." Everyone laughed. Melissa hid her grin behind a napkin. Jason raised his glass, already part of the joke. And I realized I'd spent 27 years buying tickets to a show where I was never cast. So I smiled, tiny and final. "I accept your challenge," I said. They thought it was fun and dramatic. Dylan clinked my glass like it was all harmless. But in my mind, I was already moving money. While the party still flickered through the halls, I executed the first transfer. $18,500. Every deposit I'd ever made. Every bonus. Every sacrifice. Back where it belonged, with me. Then I cancelled the auto payments. $2,100 rent, $380 utilities, $38.99 streaming bundle. Dylan used for movie nights. Each click filled my lungs with air I didn't know I'd been missing. I froze the shared debit card, Dylan's content investment fund. My banking app asked if I was sure. And for the first time in my life, I was certain. By sunrise, I was a ghost with flawless credit. At noon, Dylan texted, "Wi-Fi is down. Fix it. I have a stream tonight." I replied, "No. 2 letters. A revolution." He called, "You can't cut everyone off. It's Christmas." "I'm not cutting you off," I said calmly. "I'm logging out for the rest of the day." I didn't argue. I watched snow fall past my office window and realized silence can be deafening. That night I opened my journal, the one that used to hold grocery calculations, and I wrote 3 lines. Financial. Abuse is not family duty when you are expected to give more than they ever return. Guilt is the currency that keeps the lights on. The truth hit me like cold water. Had been paying for access to love that was never in stock. Had mistaken control for care. Obligation for affection. And every yes I gave them printed a receipt with my self-worth totaled at the bottom. Duty without reciprocity is debt without consent. I read that line until it didn't sound poetic anymore. It sounded factual. Obvious. I should have known it years ago. The next morning Melissa called. "Honey, we're thinking matching sweaters for the family photo. Could you order them?" You're so good at that stuff. I almost laughed. Not cruelly, just in disbelief. No, I said again. She paused, stunned. No. That's right. No. I'm done paying for belonging. I felt her confusion curdle into irritation through the phone. But I didn't explain. I didn't owe an invoice for my boundaries. I turned the ringer off. Made tea. Sat in the dark with my bank app glowing like a lantern. The ledger was clean. The balance was 0 for the first time in years. I wasn't in overdraft with myself. Tomorrow, I would pack. And I already knew where I was going. A tiny studio above a bookstore downtown. Rent paid by me. For me, no shared accounts, no guilt transactions. That night, I dreamed in silence. No family voices, no noise. Just the click of a keyboard and the steady beat of my own pulse counting out a new kind of math. Debit my freedom. Credit my peace. Their studio above the bookstore smelled like paper and dust. And the kind of quiet that doesn't ask for anything. White walls, one lamp, a mattress on Thefler. It was nothing fancy, but it was min. For once, everything inside a room belonged to me. Even the silence downstairs. The bookstore owner turned pages in slow rhythm. Every flip sounded like breathing. I started unpacking and that beat 3 piles on the floor. Keep Donator returned to sender. A pair of Melissa's earrings I'd borrowed years ago. Return a sweater Dylan forgot to pay me back for donate. My old accounting textbooks keep sorting Feltoy. Every item was a small confession. I kept a notebook open on the floor beside me. The ledger lived there now. It started listing things the way I used taught track expenses. But instead of numbers, I wrote memories. Groceries for the house when I was 19. Car insurance top-up for Jason when he was short 1 month. Holiday flights so they could visit relatives I wasn't invited to. Dylan's wardrobe splurge $1,250 for brand. Alignment. Each line tightened something in my chest and then released. A decade of quiet bleeding. Finale named. My phone buzzed. The first message was from Melissa. You didn't check in. Everything okay? I let it sit on my later. Another one. The water bill came in. I thought you were handling that. Then Jason chimed in. Roof and food. Violet, we raised you. You can't just walk away when things get tough. And Dylan, always Dylan, you changed the passwords, didn't you? Wow, real mature. You ruined my upload schedule. 4 messages, all different voices. Same sentence underneath. Come back. Resume function. I set the phone face down. The screen kept lighting up. Like they were trying to force daylight into a place that didn't want it. I whispered to Noon. You wanted me to disappear. I'm just finishing the job. It was strange how quiet power feels. Not fireworks, not applause. Just a steady heartbeat that doesn't skip anymore. I made tea on the tiny stove. The kettle wheezed like an old man clearing his throat. It smiled, small and private while it steeped. I opened my laptop and checked the family account one last time. 0. Every automatic payment I cancelled had finally stopped. The pattern was broken. I pinned a sticky note above my mattress in thick black marker. I wrote balance spending. That was the truth. I wasn't healed yet. I wasn't even happy. But I was pending. And pending meant progress. That night, I dreamt of the old house. The hallway smelled like burnt toast again. But this time, I walked through without cleaning the pan. Melissa called from somewhere, but her voice was faint. Jason sat at the table, counting bills that wouldn't add up. Dylan's ring light flickered. Dim. Useless. When I woke up, sunlight spilled across their white wall. The bookstore sign buzzed toe life downstairs. I brewed fresh tea and watched steam curl upward like an answer. Inside me something unclenched. For years, I thought strength was endurance. That if I could keep carrying Gavrian, it meant I was good. Turns out strength is putting them down and walking away without a receipt. I opened me notebook again, drew a straight line through the last entry, and wrote one sentence. I am no longer the familiar accountant. The ink bled a little on the page. It looked alive. Outside, Simeon turned the store sign from closed to open. I took that as a sign too. The first week was quiet. So quiet it felt almost wrong. No calls about missing payments. No text asking for favors. Just the sound of my own breathing in a room that didn't need explaining. Then right on cue the phone began to vibrate again. Dylan first. Always Dylan. Hey, Netflix isn't working. Fix it. I've got people over. I stared at the screen. Letty rang out and smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach your mouth. Just your bones. He called again. You're being childish. Pay the bill. Violet. It's family stuff. I typed, no, then hit send. The silence after was delicious. I didn't know silence could taste like honey. 2 hours later, Melissa texted. Groceries are low. Can you send something to the account? It's embarrassing going to the store with no balance. I stared at her words. At few embarrassing like irony spelled itself out. Maybe Dylan can pick up groceries. I replied. Her response came instantly. Don't be cruel. He's going through a rough patch. A rough patch. That phrase had been our family anthem since he was 12. Every time he failed, the patch grew softer around him while the ground under me kept turning Toston. I didn't answer. The calls came faster. Like waves hitting a wall that wouldn't break. Jason chimed in too. We gave you a home. You owe us the descent to talk this out. I almost laughed. Oh, there it was again. Their favorite verb. I set the phone down and opened mileage a notebook. New page. New heading. Requests denied. Netflix declined. Grocery declined. Rent declined. Utilities declined. Each refusal was Asmal heartbeat of control returning. Then I added a note in red pen. Past investment is not equal to future obligation. That line came from Vertical I bookmarked months ago, but never dared to believe something a booth sunk cost fallacy. It hit differeno. Just because I've paid in for years doesn't mean I have to keep paying to justify the loss. Love shouldn't be our stock. I have to keep funding out of guilt. I said the words out loud just to hear how they sounded. My voice didn't shake. Melissa called again that night, her tone dripping with practiced worry. We're family. Violet, you can't just turn your back when things get hard. Family share. It took a slow breath. Share, I said quietly. Show me one thing you've shared that didn't have my name on the receipt. She fell silent, then sighed like she was the victim. You're breaking this family apart. Now I said, I'm just no longer paying to keep it together. The next day, Dylan posted some passive-aggressive story about fake people who forget where they came from. His chat lord. Then the Wi-Fi cut off midstream. I didn't watch, but a friend texted me a screenshot, his face frozen in confusion, comments lighting up with jokes about karma. That's when I knew the tide was turning. I wasn't vengeful. I wasn't celebrating. I was auditing for every year I had overpaid in patience. I was collecting interest in peace. The landlord called them soon after. Their family account was empty and rent was overdue. Melissa's text switched from guilt to panic in seconds. You can't just leave us like this. She wrote, well, be evicted. I typed my answer carefully, like a signature at the end of a contract. You told me one seat I should be grateful for the roof over my head. Now you can find out what gratitude feels like without me funding it. I pressed send, put my phone face down, exhaled, then in my ledger beneath requests denied. I drew a single line and wrote, Debt forgiven. Relationship list. It wasn't rage anymore. It was accounting. Cold. Clean. Correct. I closed the notebook, turned off the light and whispered to the darkness. When the numbers stopped adding up, it's time to stop paying. Outside snow began to fall again. Slow, deliberate, and final. The call came 3 days later. Jason. His number still popped up as dialed on my phone. Though the title felt like an overdraft I'd never meant to open. His voice wasn't calm this time. It was brittle like paper held too close to a flame. Violet, how could you do this? The landlord says he's putting a 5-day notice on the door. You emptied the account. What are we supposed to do? I let him talk. The panic poured out in staccato bursts, words I'd heard before. Just rearranged. When he stopped to breathe, I said quietly, "What I did waste, take back what's mine. You spent it pretending I was part of a family faintly called me when the bills were due. You're ungrateful." He snapped. We gave AO everything. A roof. Food. I cut in a contract, not love. You raised me like a long-term investment. And now Finter has stopped coming in. That's not me fault. He said something about blood. About loyalty. About how Dylan couldn't find work. His voice cracked on the word loyalty. I think he realized mid-sentence that it didn't sound like a virtue anymore. I'm not your blood, I said. But I was your balance sheet. You just never learned how to live without a line of credit. Have fell silent for a second. I could hear the wind against their porch time. The one I bought last spring. It sounded hollow. Please, Hesed finally. Smaller than I'd ever heard him. The landlord means it this time. Don't let us get thrown out. I'm not your banker. I said, I'm your daughter when you remember. That's the difference. Then I hung up. The quiet after that call was different. It wasn't peace. It was gravity. The kind that tells you the fall has already happened and you're just watching the dust settle. A week later, I got a text from a cousin. They moved out. Eviction went through. No punctuation, just fact. I stared at the words for a long time. I expected joy or maybe guilt. What I felt was clarity. They were never homeless. They were just finally home in the truth. That night, I walked past the old house. The porch light was off. A thin sheet of paper fluttered against their front door. The 5-day notice turned weathered and pale. Inside, I could still see faint outlines on the walls where family photos had hung. Space lighter than the paint around them, like ghosts of affection that had already left. Dylan's car wasn't in the driveway. His stream had died days ago. Along with the Wi-Fi, Melissa's salon friend told me she was staying with an aunt. Jason picked up odd jobs. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just whispered what I'd written in my ledger weeks ago. When a budget loses its only revenue stream. The Truth Files, Chapter 11. Ittened. Walked back toward their bookstore. Lights glowing at the end of block, and felt the air sharpen around me. They wanted proof that I could disappear. Now they had it. But what I didn't tell them, what I only realized walking home, was that I hadn't vanished at all. I just finally shown up for myself. 2 weeks passed before I saw Melissa again. I was leaving their bookstore when I caught her reflection in the glass. Arms folded tight, coat too thin for the weather. Eyes rehearsing a softer version of herself. She smiled the way salespeople do before they ask for a refund. Violet, she said. You look different. Balanced, I said. Her lips trembled around the word. She held up an envelope like it was proof of effort. I've been meaning to talk to you. There's been a misunderstanding about the money. I waited. I wanted to hear what kind of story she'd invoice as truth this time. Your father had some unexpected exness. She said he used part of their family account to pay off a store card note. It was for Dylan's camera equipment, beauty equipment he bought with my deposits. I said, you rerouted funds. Her eyes darted away. It was temporary. We mean to replace it. I handed her a printed bank statement I brought just in case this day came. My initials were stamped beside every withdrawal. Her handwriting marked the notes. Column personal, user pay later. Fraud needs cows, I said softly. Integrity needs paper. Flushed. You didn't have to print that. I did, I said. Because explanation disper. She swallowed. Your father seemed embarrassed. Dylan's trying to get back on his feet. We just need a little more time. I shook my head. You don't need time. You need accountability. She frowned. Is this really who you are, Arno? Cold, unforgiving. No, I said. This is who I was supposed to be all along. It told her the terms clearly, like an auditor closing a file. Therapy for both parents. Proof of employment for Dylan 90 consecutive days. Only then would I discuss any repayment. Until then. No contact, no shared accounts, no guilt-driven withdrawals. She looked at me as if she'd never really seen me before. You sound like a stranger. If only do, I said. To you. At least. It'n't to leave, but her voice followed. A mix of fear and disbelief. What are we supposed to do? Adjust, I said, the same way I did. Back at the studio, I made a tear and pulled out my ledger notebook. The final page was still blank. Their bookstore sign below cast a gold light through the window. Warm and steady, I opened a fresh page and wrote, Inner Child Boundary Letter. Then slowly, I wrote the words I've been waiting years to say. You weren't adopted to be an ATM. You were chosen. Period. I'm pushing you back. I tore the page out and taped it inside the closet above a new sticky note that read balance 0. The air in the room shifted lighter somehow, like oxygen refilling after a long hold. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just breathed. For the first time, understood peace doesn't announce itself. It just sits down quietly and stays. If this hits close to home, you're not alone. Tell me one boundary you wish you'd learned sooner. And if mystery helped you find the words for yours, share it with someone who still needs the courage to say,